this is Brandy, otherwise known as Mystery of Diamonds, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hey! Alright, so what I'm doing is, this is my third whip and chat that I am doing with Lumina on my collaboration with Kara, who is the principal painter diamond painting. And this is my progress so far. I had been a little sick, so I hadn't been able to work on her as much as I want. But, like, I am loving blinging her up. I mean, like, look at that. Look at that sparkle. Woo! Oh, I'm having so much fun that I may actually have to order some more sparklers before this is done and over with. Maybe not, but we'll have to see. Okay, so, in order to be in our giveaway, what you have to do is, I have a Google form that I've got down in the description, and so you'll need to make sure that you fill out that Google form if you have not already filled it out. This is just so that I will be able to have a way to get in contact with you, so that I can be able to send you your prize. Alright, now I will have the name of the week 2 winner at the end of this video, so you'll need to stay tuned until the end to find out who won week 2 and what your prize is. Alright, so we've been kind of talking about like our experiences with school, and the last time that I did my whip and chat, I talked about, like, my sub and my first year experience. Now, when I first started teaching, I taught for 4.5 years teaching 8th grade math, and then I taught for 3 years teaching 7th grade science prior to going over to the high school. And let me tell you, there is a difference between not only middle school and high school, but in 7th and 8th grade. And it's not necessarily bad. It's just it is different. So I thought I'd kind of take you through a little bit of stuff that happened in middle school with my first grade teaching. So here in Florida, one of the things is that when you teach middle school, it's middle school is from well, at least at the school that I went to was 6th through 8th, and so 8th graders were the oldest in the school. Okay, and that was the grade I taught, and because my school's population was low, like as far as like we don't have it wasn't huge, I was the only 8th grade math teacher. So if they were in 8th grade and they were taking math, they had me. Now you had your regular group, and they had regular 8th grade math, and then you had your honors, and they were taking Algebra 1 for a high school credit, even though they were in 8th grade. Because here we have where you have to, your middle schools have to offer at least one, what we call a pre-AP class, and it just means that it's one class in middle school that could get them a high school credit before they ever head over to the high school. You know, kind of similar to when you work at the high school, you have these classes called AP classes, advanced placement classes, and that's where if you pass the test, then you with a certain score, then you can get a college credit already under your belt, and you don't have to take the class in college, nor do you have to pay for that class because you already have it. And so, you know, they decided to start offering something similar, just with high school credit for the middle schoolers. Okay, so all I did when I first started was teach math. And I really enjoy teaching math because I like to use manipulatives and hands-on teaching and everything. And the funny thing is that when I first started teaching middle school, now I don't know if middle school is the same way now, but when I taught middle school, you know, kids didn't have their phones so much, like if they weren't so dependent on them as they are now. And so, you know, I would tend to catch kids passing notes. And it's kind of funny because they would always wonder how in the world was I able to catch them passing their notes. And, you know, I had to remind them, you know, that there was a time once long ago, you know, because they think I'm ancient or something, that I used to be a student and I used to pass notes. So I know the tricks, you know, like sticking the note in the middle of a notebook and then going, oh, hey, didn't you need your notebook? You know, like, come on, people. That has been so old. I think even my teachers in school used to do that. I mean, you know, it's not invented, y'all. It's not invented. Then there was the, if you know that a friend of yours is going to be sitting in your seat in the next period, you know, you leave the note up underneath the desk for them to find. I mean, once again, same things. Now, we used to put them in the slats of our lockers. Our kids did a few of those, but, you know, like I said, we caught them when they were passing their notes. There are other things, you know, like kids have a tendency to think that we don't know when they've copied work from somebody else. And, oh, let me tell you. You know, it's kind of funny because usually what you find is that, like, you'll have a couple of papers that have the same answer in the same work, and that's not the crazy thing. It's when the answer is so, like, or the work is so off, or like really strange, like maybe they've accidentally used a different number, or they use something that has never been used before. No possible way to come up with the weird answer that they got, which by the way isn't the right answer. And then all of a sudden you have a couple of papers with the exact same thing in it. You know, you start looking and going, okay. And I can actually remember that I had one time where a student in 8th grade decided to, I mean, when I say copy, I mean like copy expressly the answer off of a friend of theirs because they didn't want to. So they copied everything, including the strange doodle that the person had put on their paper. I mean, like, come on. We're talking about a doodle that has nothing to do with the math problem. Yet, that's what they did. And I looked at it and I shook my head because I was just like, really? This is what we're doing? We're copying doodles now. Like, we're not even paying attention. I'm like, wow. And, you know, so when I call the kids up, you know, they're like, no, I wasn't cheating. I didn't do that. And I try to explain to them, I'm like, so you just had you just magically had the same doodle as someone else on your paper? And that's when they finally come clean and like, oh, okay, well, I just, you know. So, you know, it's kind of funny what kids try to get away with as far as cheating. Because I'm telling you, some of them are a little bit more inventive than when I was in school. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that kids didn't cheat when I went to school, because they did. I think kids have cheated like all throughout history, probably. It doesn't really help them in the end, but they seem to think that it helps them somehow. You know, and they continue to do it. But I was able to kind of curtail that a little bit and be like, all right, come on, you know, you can do this on your own, you know. And so then I'd try to work with them and everything. And I'm not one of those that would throw the book at them, you know, if they cheated. What I try to do is give them an additional opportunity to be able to be successful. And I actually think that that really did help, because, oh, I forgot one. Whoopsie. See, I was looking on this side of the canvas, and I wasn't looking on that side of the canvas, and missed one. At least I think that's the one I missed. Excuse me just a minute. Yes, it is. Okay. Oh, I missed two, actually. Well, I'm sure that maybe happens to other people. I was focused too much on getting the part of her face done. Okay. Whew. So anyway, back to the story. Now, there were a lot of things that I did try when I first started. Because see, kind of the personalities that you get in middle school. When you have 8th graders, you got to remember at where we're at, they're the oldest in the school. So they've already kind of tried out some techniques for either trying to get under a teacher's skin or trying to get by with certain stuff, and they were successful, and so they continue certain behaviors, and they're a little bit more confident of themselves. However, they're still trying certain things that haven't worked or whatever. They're still trying to see what they can get away with, what they can't. They've just had a little bit of a hand with it. Now, I have not taught 6th grade, and so one of the things that I have discovered with talking to teachers that teach 6th grade is that because they are coming from the elementary school, you know, and they're coming for the first time to a school where they have to change classes every period, you know, they're still very much like elementary kids. And usually elementary kids, you know, want to please the teachers. You know, the parents are more like still slightly babying, you know, and so 6th grade teachers kind of have to get the parents out of the, okay, you don't need to walk your child to their class, they are 6th graders, they can, you know, you need to go on home, let them be. And yes, there are some parents who still want to walk their kids to their classrooms in 6th grade, from my understanding, which was really surprising to me. Because, you know, that never happened in 8th or 7th grade. And of course, usually they do separate the 6th graders from the 7th and 8th graders, like whole different wings and everything else. So, you had where they're just starting out. 7th grade, I can tell you that that's where they start their experimentation with what am I going to be capable of getting away with, you know, like what can I do. It's their experimentation phase, but they're still so cute because you can actually stop them. If you realize what they're doing, you can stop them. You can put that boundary on them, and they're like, oh, okay, you know. And so they're still in that really cutesy stage, you know. They're just trying their wings. And, you know, 8th grade, they've already tried their wings, they've already figured out some stuff, and now they're ready to go full speed. Now, even some of your best kids still try to see what they get away with. It's normal. It's human nature. Okay. But one of the things that I find hilarious is that they don't even realize that or remember that you were a student once before in your life and you have done the same thing at some point in your life, and that it's not new, you know, because I think students forget that teachers used to be students at one point as well. And so they kind of lose that perspective. So yeah, we stop them when we see behaviors that we recognize, and we try to steer them on the right path, because I can tell you that's one of the things about being a teacher, is that sometimes you have to be a counselor as well. But so I was getting used to this 8th grade mentality, and trying to teach the math. And I can tell you, teaching math and science can be challenging, because usually those are the two subjects that kids just struggle the most with, either because they have not been successful previously in their life, or something, and so they are just not, they're not as confident. And so the problem is that when you get a kid that's not confident in a subject, they tend to not want to try. And so, that's one of the hurdles that I had to overcome, was trying to get them comfortable. And so, like, I actually instituted a couple of different things. I tried something different. I figured 8th graders they're right there on that verge, right before they go to high school. And so we had where I instituted this project, and I called it Life Project. And I had gone and done all the research, and had gotten made up a board that had careers with salaries and what they could earn, like a monthly paycheck kind of thing. Like, I've had it broken down into yearly and monthly. And then I had where the bank had so graciously donated these checks that weren't real checks or anything. They looked just like real checks, but they were used for educational purposes. And so I'd gotten some of those. I went and got tickets, because obviously I couldn't go get credit cards, and I wasn't going to spend that much money for fake credit cards. So I went and got tickets to represent, using credit and whatnot. I had a board that had cars and transportation, houses or apartments, rent, luxury items like a cell phone and internet. And so one of the first things that they did when they first walked in, when I introduced this project, is I had them come in, and I had them so sorry, I had them pull a card out of my hand, and it either said bad or good. And that was their credit rating, so if they pulled bad, that means they had bad credit, and that was going to affect like what their payments were for their house and for their cars and things like that. And they didn't know yet exactly what that number represented, and of course I explained it to them as we went along. And so they came in. So sorry about my dogs barking. I'm not sure, that they bark at the wind when the wind comes up. All right, so anyway, so they had to determine if they had bad or good credit. And then the next thing we did is I had them come through, and I had them decide on what career they were interested in. What was it that they were looking at that they wanted to do. And I'm pretty sure you can guess most of them, or almost all of them, did not choose, a minimum wage job. They all chose the big one, right? They all chose the doctors and the lawyers and all of that, because they're like, well, I'm gonna make the most I can make. So the next thing that I had them do is I had them fill out a job application. You know, I just went and got a couple of job applications just so that they could get experience being able to fill one out, because that was something that they were going to be doing before too long, because even though they're in 8th grade, usually by the time they get to the high school, once they hit 16, most of them, especially since I work at a low socioeconomic school, most of them would be getting jobs when they got into high school and were old enough to go get a job. So I thought it would be good experience for them to have to learn how to fill out a job application. So we did that, and then the next step was I had them configure a budget. Okay, so they had to go around, they had to choose like what kind of house they wanted, or apartment, and car and luxuries and all that. And once they decided how much they wanted and how much that they could get based on their credit score and their payments, they had to create a budget that would allow them to live. Now that part was pretty fun for them. Then I had talked to some business members in the community, and I had them, the kids came dressed up in business attire, and they had to do an interview. I had business people come and interview them. They were really sweet to do that for me. And they enjoyed it, because they said, you know, it got an opportunity to kind of see what these kids were thinking and whatnot. Now, I had a little form that the business people had to fill out to let me know, you know, would you have considered this a successful interview? Would you have hired this person? Yada, yada, yada. Now, see, I figured that most of these kids would have been on their best behavior for the interview, or would give, you know, good answers. So I was a little surprised that a few of them didn't. Okay, so after we had the interviews, then it was time for me to let them know, all right, did you get your job? And those that didn't do very well, those that didn't try, well, they didn't get their job, so they were stuck with a minimum wage job. Okay, and so then they had to go through and adjust their budgets for their new job, if they didn't get it. And that became a little bit harder, because then I kept getting, but wait a second, I'm not going to be able to afford this house. And I'm like, okay, so what do you think that you're going to need to do? And they're like, I'm going to have to find a roommate and an apartment. I can't even afford the apartment by myself. And they said, this doesn't really happen in real life. I'm like, oh, but it does. But it does. And so they're like, oh, man. And so some of them that didn't get the jobs and had to end up pulling the minimum wage job things, those ones, a lot of them decided, well, can we just room together? Can we split all the stuff? And then they also started realizing, because they're like, a cell phone is a necessity. And I said, well, in the actual world, a cell phone is considered a luxury. You know, like, you don't, like, it's not something that is, you know, I know most of y'all believe that it's a necessity, same with cable and internet, but, you know, there are plenty of people that can and do live without those conveniences, so to speak. So anyway, they were figuring it out, and then I showed them, we went through like how to be able to write a check, and then I explained to them about the tickets being their credit card things. And so every day when they came in, because we were still doing our regular lessons, this was just in a sidebar kind of thing. is that every day when they came in, I asked them, all right, did you go to the store last night? Well, yeah, I had to get me a soda, and so they had to start keeping a quote unquote checking account with their paycheck, and they started being able to see how far it would last. And they're like, they started realizing towards the end that they would have to be more frugal with their money, that they couldn't just go out and get a coffee or a soda every day, or go out to eat at McDonald's every day, and be able to make their money last. Because every so often I would come in, because we did this kind of like a half the year project. And so I would come in and I'd go, all right, today is the first of the month, and this is when you're going to pay your bills. And so that's when they had to write their checks for the utilities and the payments on their house and whatnot that they were doing. So, I mean, I'm sure I could have made it, as I've thought about it, I could have made it a lot more extensive, but I still think that I gave those kids a really good background in being able to know some of the stuff that they can expect once they get out there in the real world. And I know that it actually worked, because I have seen a few of those kids grown up now that have seen me and come and let me know that was a lesson that they still remember and still take to heart. So, I know that I got somewhere with that. Something else that you need to know is that middle school kids they've got a lot of emotions going in their bodies, because a lot of them are going through puberty, and so they don't understand a lot of their emotions. And being at a school with low socioeconomic, it means that you have kids, as much as I hate to say it, but you've got kids that live in cars because they can't, they don't have any place else to go. And coming to school is one of their few things that they get an opportunity to talk with other people, get food and whatnot, and it's very difficult on them. And we try to talk to them and do everything that we can. That's why when the back to school sales come on, I go out of my own pocket and I go and I get notebooks and binders and extra paper and pencils and pens to have in my classroom, so that if I have a kid that doesn't have that stuff, I can give it to them and I can make sure that they have what they need. And it's just a little something that a lot of us teachers actually do. I know quite a lot that do the exact same thing. And because we know that sometimes kids can't afford the back to school supplies, and so we do what we can to help kids. Do I have to? No. Do I want to? Yes, because I feel that it's helping them, It's showing them that there are people out there that care about their well-being and what's going on. So we had a bad thing happen. For some reason, we were encountering, at the time that I was working at the middle school, we were encountering kids that were what we call cutters. Okay, and if you don't know what a cutter is, it's where, in order to feel something, they take a razor blade and they cut themselves. And you can usually tell the cutters because even when it's hot, they're wearing long sleeves. They don't push up their sleeves. They don't show you. And so we were having a lot of kids that were showing up with some of these same things. And so then our school decided that they would start doing some searches. And when they searched, they found like over 100 razor blades on these kids that were being used to cut with, and it was so sad. Well, one day there was a student that she was not in the classroom, and I called the office and said, I don't know if this student is here, but could someone like go and see if she was in her other classes or something? Is she okay? Because yes, you do have kids that like to skip classes, and my students have, whoops, ha, I didn't mean to do that. And my kids have learned that the worst class to skip is mine, because I'm going to check after you. Okay, and this situation that happened is one of the reasons why I continue to check after them. So the office never got back to me, and I said, did you ever find the student? And they said no. And so I was like, all right, well, the next period was my planning period. So I went to the first place that I could think of. I went to the girls' bathroom, and at first I didn't see anybody in the first couple of stalls, and then I happened to look on the floor, and I noticed there was some red stuff on the floor at the very back in the last stall. And I was like, what in the world? And so I went back there, and I found the student, and she had cut herself really deeply, and had kind of passed out. And so I managed to get 911 there, and I got, we were able to get her to the hospital, and she was fine. Now I was worried that she would be upset, but I mean, I did what I had to do. I couldn't let this poor girl, and there's my own laugh track. My husband laughing at his own stuff back there. He's watching something really good on TV, I guess. Sorry. So, and here he goes again. Okay. I apologize, guys. So, but she came back to school, and she actually came to me, and she thanked me, and she hugged my neck, because the thing was that she didn't want to kill herself, but she was feeling alone, she was feeling depressed, and so she thought that was her only way. And so from that point, she actually kind of started coming and talking to me, and it would help her. And that's something else that you become when you become a teacher, is sometimes you kind of become a little bit of a therapist, because these kids, sometimes you're the only person that they can talk to about their situation, of what's going on. And then of course, yes, you have to do the appropriate phone calls or whatever, but it ended up that this one wasn't, this girl didn't have anything with a home life that was an issue, and once her parents found out what was going on, they took really good care of her. They really loved her and everything. It had nothing to do with that. I'm not at liberty to say exactly what was going on with her, but let's just say she had some issues that she was dealing with. And so that's probably the most extreme thing that ever happened when I taught 8th grade. 7th grade was an eye-opener, because of the fact that I went from teaching math to teaching science. Because when I left my county, I applied for a math job, but there were so many people applying for the math job that the principal had decided to contact my county, found out that I was an amazing math teacher, however, that they believed that I would make a phenomenal science teacher, because I love hands-on. I did hands-on math, and so they figured that I would fit right in with hands-on science. And so, when the principal interviewed me, he told me straight off the bat, he goes, I can go ahead and tell you, he goes, I'm not looking at you for a math position, I'm looking at you for a science. And I looked at him and I was like, I haven't taught science. He said, no, but you are certified to teach it. Because I had gone and gotten this thing called integrated middle school curriculum. It meant that I could teach anything from that was taught in middle school. Thank God he wasn't looking at me for English or history, because whoo, I would not still be teaching if that were the case. I hats off to the English and history teachers, because that's just not my subject. It's not what I can do. So anyway, and I was surprised. I was like, well, okay, you know, I can try it. And I ended up realizing that I really did like science. 7th grade science is where you have some life science, you have some physical science, you have some space, you know, and it's really pretty neat. And I did enjoy it because I got a chance to do what I call edible labs. Oh, those are fun. All right, I just looked at the time and realized that I have been talking for way too long. So I will actually continue this story with 7th grade science and some of the stuff that happened there in my next Whip and Chat. But let me go ahead and do the winner for week 2. All right, so week 2, you are still, woo, hello. You're still getting this heart cover, or this heart wax holder with a piece of heart wax in it. So I thought was really neat for any of your Diamond Art Club kits that you might get. And I found this on Shine Shop Designs, and I don't know if you can see how beautiful this is. I thought this goes perfectly with our blinging up of Lumina. Look at that. Look at that sparkle. And so, I mean, like, look, it goes right with the canvas, you know. So, I really like that. So, guys, I know it's not a ton, but I really like it. So, let me get my little random number generator thing going here. I had 12 unique comments. So I'm going to put in 12 and I'm going to do generate, and I got the winner is number 9, which is Diamond Queen 2020. Congratulations, Diamond Queen 2020. I will be contacting you and letting you know that you won and getting where I can send this to you. So congratulations. And I wanted to also say on this real quick that thank you for all the support to everybody who has been supporting me and my channel. I am at 240 subscribers, which just gobsmacks me. And if I do ever manage to get up to 300, I will do another subscriber giveaway. So yay, that would be awesome. If I get up to 300, I'll do another subscriber giveaway. So I want to say, if you like this video, hit the like button down below. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. I would love to have you as part of my Diamonds family. Make sure you hit that bell notification. That way that you know whenever I upload, you know, which can be kind of here and there. I upload when I can. And I'm going to leave you with what I always leave you with. Reach for the stars. Grab hold. Hold on. And never let go. Alright, until my next video. Bye, guys!